calling all pundits and mavens. Put down that remote because the Mike Pence Show is on the air. Indie TV presents 30 minutes of programming cram-packed with interesting guests, cool topics, and a host whose wife picks out his tie for every show. Now, here he is, Mike Pence.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Jen and this is Fundie Fridays, and here on my channel I talk about different aspects of Christian fundamentalism while doing my makeup. And before you ask, hot dog summer, beanggoods.com, you can thank me later. Today's episode topic was chosen by my wonderful patrons of the official Fundie Fridays fan club. If you would like to support me financially as well as get to vote on the monthly episode topic, go ahead and become a patron. Link is down below. Michael Richard Pence was born June 7th, 1959 in Columbus, Indiana. Mike Pence is a former Vice President of the United States, Governor of Indiana, radio host, and political pundit. And despite what Wikipedia says, we all know his real name is Michael Pencil. Mike Pence is a self-proclaimed Christian, conservative, and Republican in that order.
I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order.
Yeah, and I'm a joker, a smoker, and a midnight toker, but you don't see me bragging about it. But seriously, that is his catchphrase, and he says it so much that it became his campaign slogan. There's just something about Mike Pence that just makes you feel uneasy. In my head canon, he's what would happen if Norman Bates went to Jesus camp. But before we dive into the Bible-thumping, chap-lipped world of Mike Pence, here is a word from our sponsor.
I talk about a lot of great products and services on this program, and one in particular is near and dear to my heart.
Thanks, Mike. Today's video is sponsored by Hunt a Killer. Hunt a Killer is a subscription-based murder mystery game. Part of the proceeds for every box actually go to the Cold Case Foundation, which is an organization that is dedicated to helping solve real-life cold cases. John E. Douglas, the inspiration for Netflix's Mindhunter, is actually chairman of the board. Each box comes with piles of documents, evidence, audio recordings, and yes, there are defined goals for each box, like eliminating a suspect or determining the murder weapon. That way you get kept on track and you always know what you're supposed to be looking for. The first case that you solve is that of Viola Vane in The Mystery of Curtain Call. My friends and I just finished that one. Amazing. And I didn't know this until after we played, but there is a trailer for that specific mystery, and you should check it out if you end up playing because it is super immersive. And I wish I had seen the trailer before I played. We have since moved on to another game. This one is called Starstruck, and get this, it is based on 2000s boy bands, and it has been such a nostalgia trip. And what's really cool is not only do you have these physical props, but there is this virtual desktop that you get access to so you can like email the person that's helping you solve the mystery and the story. It's so cool. But on the virtual desktop for this one of Starstruck, there is a imitation of a message board, and it looks like it's from, 1999. And the props in this one are insane. You get a black light for solving puzzles, VIP backstage pass. It is fun to play by yourself, but I highly recommend playing with friends. After all, a fresh pair of eyes can offer a new perspective when solving a difficult puzzle. Hunt a Killer is way more fun than going to a bar. I'm not afraid to say it. Everyone can enjoy this game regardless of skill level, and I guarantee it will have you hooked. I can't wait to start playing again because I want to know who killed this has-been pop star. If you're like me and can't get enough of this kind of interactive puzzle game, then you gotta go to huntakiller.com/Fundie and use my code Fundie for 20% off your first box. Your friends are gonna love it. You're gonna make precious memories. I don't see what could be better than this. Once again, that's huntakiller.com/Fundie. By using my code Fundie, you will get 20% off your first box. Okay, I gotta put this away or I'm gonna get in trouble. All biographies of Pence paint a portrait of a cookie-cutter, clean-cut American patriot. He was a bicycle-riding, football-playing, suburb-living, corn-fed white boy. Okay, maybe I had a little too much fun writing the description for that one. But in general, Pence seems to follow the exact same character arc as every other middle-aged white dude in politics right now. Had it not been for his exceptionally potent relationship with American evangelicals, he may never have been more than a political benchwarmer. By all accounts, Pence was a good kid. He played football in high school, got decent grades, and kept his nose clean. But being vanilla has its advantages. Since he's so unassuming, you don't realize how evil he is. But make no mistake, Mike Pence has always been there, lurking in the background. He's kind of like Trisha Paytas. He's been involved in every major event of the 2000s. Pence was a shitty leader in his home state of Indiana, but the kicker is he was never chosen for his leadership ability. Most of his political success relied fully on his ability to appeal to the singularly united American evangelical voting bloc. Pence went to Hanover College in Indiana for his Bachelor of Arts, and then in 1981 he went to Indiana University for a law degree, and graduated in 1986. According to an interview with one of his old frat buddies, Pence was always hardworking and ambitious. One biography had even claimed that Pence considered entering the priesthood after college, before ultimately deciding on politics. Murphy and Pence lived in neighboring dorms and made a habit of attending Catholic Mass together on Sunday nights. On their walks back home, they often talked about their futures, and it became clear to Murphy that his friend had a much stronger sense of his mission in the world than the average undergrad. Pence agonized over his calling. He talked about entering the priesthood, but ultimately felt drawn to politics, a realm where he believed he could harness God's power to do good. It was obvious to his fraternity brothers, Murphy told me, that Pence wanted to be president one day. Pence famously converted from Catholicism to evangelicalism in 1978 after a powerful experience at a Christian music festival.
And it was a few weeks later I went to what was a great contemporary Christian music festival in Wilmore, Kentucky, called Ichthus in 1978, and I heard lots of great singing, just like I heard this morning, and I heard lots of wonderful preaching. And Saturday night, sitting in a light rain, I walked down, and not out of anything other than my heart really finally broke with the deep realization that what had happened on the cross in some infinitesimal way had happened for me, and I gave my life and made a personal decision to trust Jesus Christ as my Savior.
Wow. And the most powerful experience I've ever had at a music festival was peaking on acid during the Village People set. I must be doing something wrong. Also used to be a Democrat and switched parties after his conversion. That's interesting. Pence did initially stumble in his quest for power. He couldn't get elected in his earlier attempts, so he took an entirely different career path and became a radio show host.
Mike Pence.
Pence nicknamed himself Rush Limbaugh on Decaf, since he considered himself politically similar to Limbaugh, but less bombastic and offensive on air. Clips of Pence's show are actually really hard to come by. But thankfully, we have managed to find this clip.
Brought to WTHI Radio, and Dennis, you're on the Mike Pence Show. Hi.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, this whole situation you're talking about reminds me about this time I tried to round a bunch of hogs up into a truck.
Wow.
Yeah, no, all them hogs was, how hogs is real smart, and like they had basically had a democracy against me, and so they were trying to put me in the pit, and that's not how it's gonna be. I ain't gonna deal with hogs like that.
You were given. I'm just looking at that roster. So you got, which is below. You got honorable discharge, you got general, you got undesirable.
So, it's kind of like one of them kangaroo courts, but with pigs, because, kangaroos, they don't really have they're based more on like an anarchy system of justice, whereas pigs, it's real military.
Okay.
So they tried to give me an undesirable discharge, and then they locked me in the trailer for 3 months, and they called it a brig.
You got 3 months in the brig.
You're damn right, I got 3 months in that trailer, had to live on stale hog feed.
I would assume before your discharge.
No, that was after the discharge, but that was my own choice because I wanted to live in there, and also I did not have money for another apartment.
What do you think about the justice in this case? Was she treated too harshly, or?
I don't think she was treated harshly enough. If it'd been them pigs, they'd have told Kelly Flynn to fuck off, and they'd have locked her in the truck like they did with me. See, I don't think you're getting it, Mike Pence. Them pigs is out for blood. If it'd been Kelly Flynn, she wouldn't have survived. I don't care about them fighter planes.
Got it. Well, it is interesting coming from your background that why do you think she got what she deserved here? I mean, you've said back in 1958 you went through the same thing. Have you learned things since then that convince you that of the error of your ways and her ways here?
That exactly did happen, and I did the exact same thing. I ended up sleeping with a superior officer's wife, and that whole thing caused me nothing but trouble. Not as much as them pigs, though.
What do you think about what Trent Lott and others have said here? Senator Trent Lott said that the Air Force needs to get real about
I
that.
think what they need is that Trent Lott needs to spend some time with those hogs. He needs to get locked in there, eat that stale pig food like I did. That'd humble him up.
And this is different. I can't. I'm trying to peg the right years. I don't know if the. I don't think the draft was in effect when you were in the service.
Well, the draft wasn't in effect back then when I was in the service, but in the pig service, but they don't really draft. It's just like you show up to Ted's place and say, "Hey, you need help moving them hogs," and he's like,
Okay.
"Yeah, I need help moving them hogs." So that was really all that was.
Well, it sounds to me, sir, like you are a man of tremendous judgment, and I really congratulate you for the call and for your obvious growth in character since those days in your life. I really and truly offer my thanks to you, sir. Good to hear from you, and happy Memorial Day.
All right, you take it easy, Mike. I'm gonna go smoke more meth.
In 1990, Mike Pence ran for Congress, and his campaign came under fire from Arab American groups for a political ad that was labeled racially insensitive. Pence later expressed his regrets about his behavior in an op-ed titled Confessions of a Negative Campaign. There's no photographic evidence of this ad. You know how it was in the 90s. They didn't really save anything, but it was widely reported on. In the ad, Pence featured a man with a heavily Middle Eastern accent wearing a black robe, white headdress, and sunglasses thanking Pence's opponent, Representative Phil Sharp, for not weaning the U.S. off a dependence on foreign oil. Sharp was the chairman of a House subcommittee on energy and power at the time. "My people would like to thank you Americans for buying so much of our oil," says the man in the ad, while thanking him for taking oil and gas PAC money. "Oh, thank you, Phil Sharp," the Middle Eastern man says. The Washington-based Arab American Institute called the ad offensive. Pence defended the ad, telling the Associated Press, "This ad is not about Arabs. It is about Phil Sharp's failure to lead." More than 200 people gathered in a local Greek Orthodox church to protest the ad, which was called a racist depiction of their culture. "It's degrading," said a woman of Syrian heritage. "What's so funny?" another asked. "It's a cheap shot," declared an Arab American college professor. Pence's campaign manager said the ad meant no malice toward Arab Americans. Local editorials were run blasting the ad, with even Republican voters writing into local newspapers to say they were offended. "Using it shows our poor judgment," wrote the Indianapolis News. "It was a terrible experience, a bloodbath, but I own the responsibility," Pence said to the Indian Business Journal in 1994. "We lost the race and lost our mission to honor God and love your neighbor as yourself. We scarcely did that." After 2 failed bids for Congress, Pence was elected in 2000 and served until 2013 when he became the governor of Indiana. One of the more famous aspects of Pence's personal life is that he calls his wife mother, and we know this because he has been overheard doing that many times in public. While that is cringe, I will say, at least he's not calling her mommy. In March 2017, the Washington Post wrote an article about the fact that Pence never eats alone with a woman other than his wife and refuses to attend events that have alcohol without her by his side. Pence did not invent this concept. In fact, this is a deliberate choice that a lot of men make, enough men that it actually has its own Wikipedia entry, and it's called the Billy Graham rule. Billy Graham was a Southern Baptist minister and a traveling evangelist who was popular during the late 40s and 50s, and he was considered one of the most influential Christian leaders of the 20th century. Here's the thing about this whole "I only eat dinner with my mom" wife thing. Yes, it is technically harmless on its face, and it is fully Pence's right to make that decision. But since Mikey is an elected official, we are allowed to be concerned with his behaviors that represent our country. And I don't like having a man in the White House who can't be trusted to eat a meal with a woman unsupervised. This also severely hinders his ability to maintain lunch meetings with women in power as compared to men, and we all know that big decisions are made over endless soup, salad, and breadsticks. Pence was actually the one that popularized the war on Planned Parenthood. As a member of Congress, Pence supported the first bill to defund Planned Parenthood in 2007, and did so repeatedly through 2011 when it finally passed the House. Federal law already prohibits government spending from paying for abortions, but abortion clinics like Planned Parenthood have traditionally received money for other routine healthcare services they provide, like STD testing, cancer screenings, or annual exams to provide birth control. But Pence felt like he could make it harder for Planned Parenthood clinics to provide abortions if they were losing their other revenue streams.
What's clear to me is if you follow the money, you can actually take the funding supports out of abortion. We then have a much better opportunity to move forward to be a society that says yes to life.
As Indiana's governor, Pence has continued to push back against Planned Parenthood. He has cut public funding to its clinics by more than $1 million. He even launched an investigation of the group's fetal tissue disposal practices after the CMP videos were released. The investigation ultimately found no wrongdoing by Planned Parenthood, although that is a narrative that is continually pushed by conservatives. Roe v. Wade, passed in 1973, was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. And this is where Pence and other Republicans have been able to carve out their own nasty little footholds in the foundation of Roe v. Wade. So states are able to make their own extremely restrictive abortion access laws, as long as they don't ever try to outlaw the practice of abortion outright. So if they can't outlaw abortion, they're going to make it so that it's pretty much impossible to get one. These kinds of laws are commonly referred to as TRAP laws, which stands for Targeted Restrictions on Abortion Providers. These laws are designed to sidestep Roe v. Wade by passing targeted laws that heavily restrict specific critical operational processes for abortion providers. This allows them to avoid banning abortion in name while making it so difficult that you can't get one. Trap laws, heartbeat bills as they're sometimes called, they are getting passed all the time all over America, and it's only going to get worse. These restrictive abortion bills do so much harm to vulnerable individuals, most notably low-income women of color. These laws allow women to be jailed for miscarriages, preteen girls to be forced to carry the children of their abusers and share parental rights with them, and in the most tragic of cases, death for the pregnant person. Cases like that of Dr. Savita Halapanavar, whose tragic death highlights the cruelty that trap laws create. Savita was a dentist in Ireland. Savita was having a miscarriage and she went septic, and the doctors were not allowed to give her an abortion because there was still a detectable heartbeat. So Irish law forbade doctors from saving her life. Up until recently, Ireland had very restrictive abortion laws, most likely due to how Catholic everything is there. There were lots of protests, and it was a jumping off point for abortion access in Ireland. And in 2018, they passed the Regulation of Termination of Pregnancy Act of 2018, and now abortion is permitted in Ireland during the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, and later in cases where the pregnant woman's life or health is at risk, or in the case of fatal fetal anomaly. The other big thing that Pence is known for is how homophobic he is.
Congress should oppose any effort to recognize homosexuals as a discrete and insular minority entitled to the protection of anti-discrimination laws similar to those extended to women and ethnic minorities. Homosexuality is incompatible with military service because the presence of homosexuals in the ranks weakens unit cohesion. Obama would advance a radical social agenda. Pastors could be charged or subject to intimidation for simply expressing a biblical worldview on the issue of homosexual behavior.
I'm not surprised that Pence feels this way about gay people. One of his mentors and closest confidants is none other than James Dobson, the founder of Focus on the Family. For those unaware, Focus on the Family were a notorious Christian propaganda machine and borderline hate group. And you can thank Dobson for Josh Duggar's career, by the way.
The hate crimes bill before us today makes a federal offense out of any violent crime that is alleged to be motivated by gender identity, including, for instance, people who describe themselves as transsexuals. Even though the Hate Crime Statistics Act of 1990, as amended in 1994, never collected any data to show that such hate crimes are even occurring.
In 2015, as governor of Indiana, Pence signed a religious freedom law whose sweeping language permitted Indiana businesses to refuse to serve LGBT Americans. Unlike the wishy-washy little bitch that he is, he refused to answer any direct questions about it.
Final yes or no question, Governor. Do you think it should be legal in the state of Indiana to discriminate against gays or lesbians? It's a yes or no question.
Come on, Hoosiers don't believe in discrimination, and we're going to continue to work our hearts out to clarify that to the people of Indiana and the people of this great country.
Yes or no, should it be legal to discriminate against gays and lesbians?
George, you're following the mantra of the last week online.
Like many of his fundamentalist forefathers, Pence is against comprehensive sex education.
There was a tone to the Secretary of State's comments that was troubling to me, because he talked about putting away taboos and conservative ideas and move on to condom use and condom distribution. Frankly, condoms are a very, very poor protection against sexually transmitted diseases. There's at least half a dozen to 10 sexually transmitted diseases for which condom use has zero preventative value. The Secretary of State may be inadvertently misleading millions of young people and endangering lives.
Abstinence and marital faithfulness before condom distribution are the cure for what ails the families of Africa.
We ought to be sending a message to kids across the country that abstinence is the best choice.
This kind of misinformation kills people, and it's not limited to America. Evangelical missionaries spread these lies about sexual health to communities under the guise of religion. And it's especially bad in Uganda, to which there is even an entire documentary about this specific phenomenon called God Loves Uganda. And it was also mentioned in my IHOP video. Man, this Fundie Friday cinematic universe is very expansive. As governor of Indiana, after Pence cut the funding for a rural Planned Parenthood, which was the only HIV testing center located in Scott County, Indiana, it was forced to close its doors in 2013. 2 years later, Scott County became the epicenter of a devastating HIV outbreak. The reason why this became really bad is because Pence refused to fund needle exchange programs, which are life-saving, because he didn't want to seem like he was weak on crime.
I do not support needle exchange as anti-drug policy. I don't believe that effective anti-drug policy involves handing out paraphernalia to drug users by government officials. If the legislature sent me a broad-based needle exchange bill, I would veto it.
Governor Mike Pence is now pushing a clean needle program, something he'd long opposed until this outbreak.
This is a very serious situation. Through an aggressive law enforcement effort, we're going to find the people that are responsible.
Trump once joked in private that Pence wants to hang gay people. A story from The New Yorker, citing two anonymous sources, said Trump enjoys needling the conservative former Indiana governor about his views on abortion and homosexuality. And when a conversation with an unnamed legal scholar turned to gay rights, the president motioned to Pence and allegedly joked, "Don't ask that guy. He wants to hang them all." Hey guys, like my Trump impression. Seeing as how all jokes contain a little bit of truth, I believe that wholeheartedly. Even if Pence isn't saying that kind of stuff out loud, like, just look at him. He looks like the guy that tried to outlaw the X-Men. Pence notoriously simped for both Ronald Reagan and Rush Limbaugh, and after he died, he performed in this moving and touching memorial.
Well, I must tell you, I mean, when I served in the House of Representatives, he was our greatest champion when we were fighting a rearguard action for conservative values. In Republican and Democrat administrations, he was there giving us air cover every single day. When I was governor of Indiana and when I served as vice president, he was the anchor of conservatism. He gave voice to a movement and to the ideals that have always made America great and have been making America great again. I feel a personal indebtedness to him, though, Sandra. Many people don't know that I spent about a decade in talk radio myself. I was inspired to go into conservative talk radio in the 1990s because of Rush Limbaugh. And I scarcely believe that I would have had the opportunities to serve in the Congress, to serve the people of Indiana as governor, or to serve as your vice president without the life, the example, the encouragement, and ultimately the friendship of Rush Limbaugh. So our hearts are heavy today. Our prayers are with his family and the millions of Americans who like us loved and cherished Rush Limbaugh.
Pence also officiated Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's third wedding. The funny thing about that is that Mnuchin's wife is in this really terrible movie that has recently been roasted by every single commentary channel ever, and I highly recommend watching it if you need something to ease the pain.
My name is Catherine Black. You may think that I'm a materialistic, narcissistic, self-absorbed misanthrope. I don't deny it. I'm a hedge fund manager. I'm addicted to fashion, the accumulation of money, exercise, and sex.
That really escalated. I'm madly in love with you.
I really appreciate that.
There's no need to escalate this to the point of no return.
That's subjective, sweetheart.
In January of 2021, Trump dropped Pence faster than Madonna dropped her British accent. Throughout the Trump presidency, Pence existed as an odd and generally ineffectual constant. While few people can say for sure why Pence was chosen as Trump's VP, we've generally accepted it's because Trump needed to secure the evangelical vote, which he was not popular with because of all of his shenanigans. However, once the election was over, Pence faded into the background under the weight of Trump's public profile. Despite being the only individual in the administration that Trump would never be able to fire, Pence did not challenge him or ever attempt to exercise any of his own authority. In Pence's attempt to maintain order and certify the election results on January 6th, Pence suddenly found himself in Trump's crosshairs. Trump was active in lambasting Pence as disloyal for certifying the election results. The insurrection of January 6th and Pence's subsequent fall from grace represent the larger shifts in American conservative culture into the hard right sphere currently being led by Trump. The evangelicals are no longer his people the way they used to be, and now they are willing to cut Pence loose if he does not fall in line with Trump. If he was unpopular before, he is being booed off stage right now.
Deeply humbled by them. Ralph Reed knows me well enough to know the introduction I prefer is a little bit short.
And these are coming from the same people who worshipped the ground that the Trump administration walked on. This is scary that they're able to just flip like that. Well, that's Michael Pencil for you. If you enjoyed this video, remember to consensually smash that like and subscribe button. There are resources in the info box below if you would like to read more about this man. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Discord, all the good stuff. Buy the merch. We got some really new fun designs, including God Loves You in a Gay Way, Limp Bizkit University, and now Fundie Friday's logo in hoodie form. I love you all so very much, and I hope that you're gonna have a great weekend and enjoy hot tubby summer. Remember to drink water, take your pills, and if you're gonna wash your bra, you need to really invest in a lingerie bag. It will protect it from getting destroyed by the dryer, and it's just a great thing to add to your laundry routine. And if you're gonna play Hunt a Killer, remember to go to huntakiller.com/Fundie and use my code Fundie to get 20% off your first box, and also tell me about it. I want to hear how your game's going, okay? I will see you guys soon. I love you very much. Have a very blessed day.
Mike Pence. Mike Pence.